Barak to Yahushai, Barak to Yahweh, Barak to Yahushai, Barak to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of Great Stone rule well, to the Akima Aqua, to the Falcons of the earth, holding on in sincerity and in truth to the testament of the Lord and Mashiach Yahushai. This is Brahmanash DC Camp, another lesson for the hopeful elect, right, for the edification of the body, right, of the Lord Mashiach Yahushai, right. So, just like I was going through the previous lesson about the salt, how it's very, very integral to the meat offering, to the sacrifice offered unto the Lord. You also have to know that it links perfectly well with certain events in history. All right, that's when you look at that horrible judgment that the Lord allowed the heathens to desecrate our temple. It just makes you understand what happens when our people go astray. They become fodder for the enemy. They become easy pickings for the enemy. All right. So when you read the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41, I'm going to read from 41 to 47. All right. So it says, moreover, right, in First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 41, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Shabbat. Okay, and that's how our people became so terrible to their own selves, man. You know, they gave up, all right? They succumbed to their fears, all right? They gave up their faith, they gave up their hope, okay? And then in verse 44, for the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, all right, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Shabbat and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, sacrifice swine flesh and unclean beasts. Yep, so that's a huge blemish upon our nation, all right? That the Lord warned us about, all right, through our forefather Moses, that the enemy is going to come against us, all right, the curses, all right, and what really happens when the temple and the altar are desecrated? There has to be a consecration, all right. There has to be a sacrifice. There has to be the shedding of blood, all right. And this is where the feast of dedication comes in, all right. And that right there goes back, okay, to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 43. Okay, it tells you exactly what had to be done to consecrate our nation back unto the Lord. So when you look at Ezekiel chapter 43, you start from 18. In fact, the whole chapter is good. It gives you better understanding about the feast of dedication. All right. So if you look at verse 18, it says, "And he said unto me," it's what the Lord, all right, mentioned to our forefather Ezekiel, "and he said unto me, Son of man, thus said the Lord Yahweh, these are the ordinances of the altar in the day when they shall make it to offer burnt offerings thereon, and to sprinkle blood thereon. And thou shalt give to the priests, the Levites, that be of the seed of Zadok, which approach unto me to minister unto me, said the Lord Yahweh, a young bullock for a sin offering." All right. So what were the Greeks doing? All right. What were they forcing our people to do? To offer unclean beasts for sacrifice upon the altar. All right. "And thou shalt take the blood thereof and put it on the four horns of it, and on the four corners of the saddle, and upon the border round about. Thus shalt thou cleanse and purge it." All right. So that's what you do to cleanse the altar. All right. The blood of the bullock. All right. So it's a ceremony. It's a process that the Lord specified. All right. Then it says in verse 21, "Thou shalt take the bullock also of the sin offering, and he shall burn it in the appointed place of the house without the sanctuary." All right. So he's got to take it outside. And then verse 22, it says, "And on the second day thou shalt offer a kid of the goats without blemish for a sin offering, and they shall cleanse the altar as they did cleanse it with the bullock." All right. So the first day is a bullock. On the second day, you gotta use the kid from a goat. All right. Then verse 23 says, "When thou hast made an end of cleansing it, thou shalt offer a young bullock without blemish, and a ram out of the flock without blemish." All right. So now let's go to verse 24. "And thou shalt offer them before the Lord, and the priest shall cast salt upon them, and they shall offer them up for a burnt offering unto the Lord." Verse 25 says this, "7 days shalt thou prepare every day a goat for a sin offering. They shall also prepare a young bullock and a ram out of the flock without blemish." Verse 26, "7 days shall they purge the altar and purify it, and they shall consecrate themselves." Okay. Now, look at verse 27. "And when these are expired, it shall be that upon the 8th day and so forward, the priest shall make your burnt offerings upon the altar and your peace offerings, and I will accept you, said the Lord Yahweh." Yeah, so that's how you perform the ceremony of consecration, all right, the rededication, all right, the purging of our iniquities, all right, and you now go to the book of First Maccabees, all right, First Maccabees, and you could also tell of the similarity, all right, First Maccabees, that's where they got the service from. First Maccabees chapter 4. You read from verse 52 to 59. All right. Actually, if you look at start from verse 41. Okay, this is the process. So it says, "Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress, which, all right, until he had cleansed the sanctuary. All right. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out of and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. All right, so you got to throw away all that defiled stones. All right, the temple was defiled because of the filth that our people allowed to be sacrificed upon the altar, the swine's flesh and the flesh of unclean creatures. Okay, and what else does it say in verse 44? And when thou art, when when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it, wherefore they pulled it down. Right? So that's something you have to know and remember. And then it says, verse 46, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet to shew what should be done with them. Verse 27 says, and then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former. Okay, and you jump to verse 52. All right, it says this. Yes, it's a lot to read, but when you read the whole thing, man, it just makes a lot of sense. All right, so it says, now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshipping and praising the power of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. Okay, and then verse 57 says, they decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. All right, then 58 says, thus Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in the season from year to year by the space of 8 days, for the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. So that's something you have to understand, man. All right. So the law that the Lord gave to our forefather Ezekiel was picked up by our forefather Judas Maccabees. All right. So they could be a holy nation to the Lord again. All right. To rededicate the temple, rededicate the altar. All right. So this is similar to what you get in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 43. All right. And then you see, when you read the whole chapter, it tells you, all right, how the Lord was going to tell us what to do as by the cleansing of our nation. Because look at that in verse 9. All right. Now let them put away their whoredom and the carcasses of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. Okay, so look at that. Now look at the verse 6. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house, and the man stood by me, that's the angel of the Lord. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the sole of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever, and my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places. All right. So it just shows you how much the Lord values the holiness of our people. All right, because our holiness is of the Lord. All right, the Lord has to make sure we're holy. Just like the Lord has always said, "Be ye holy as I am holy." Okay, so this is the whole place, man. This is one thing that you have to remember, because you have to take the law and apply it. Judas Maccabees didn't just make it up. Okay, it was according to the law. So that's how you perform the rededication, the purification, the consecration of the temple, on the altar. All right, the sanctuary of the Lord. And what did he do from year to year? All right, in the month of Caslu, you gotta have the feast of dedication. All right, so when you look at what Yahushua did, he also observed, all right, the feast of dedication. All right, so it says, and it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter. All right, so that means the law became a yearly service during the month of Caslu, and then it tells you what Caslu is in the winter. Okay, so so much that you learn and you grow from with just one little word. Takes you places where you you can't even imagine. So that's the point there, Akim. Baratiza, you learn something from this lesson. And hey, it's a never-ending journey when you read the word of the Lord, man. You just keep on going on and on and on. Shalom.